collectivity. And it's telling us there are natural differences, there are tribal differences, and racial differences, and ethnic differences, but these should not negate the common bonds that unite us. These are beautiful things. And the diversity is what, as they say, diversity is the spice of life. And when we travel to other lands, at least there was a time, I don't know about now, when we look forward to going to South Asia to have some nice spicy samosas and some biryani. And we're disappointed if we travel all the way to India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or Sri Lanka and the only fare available is Burger King and Kentucky Fried Chicken. I could have stayed in America for this. Variety is the spice of life. And we should cherish the variety that exists between and amongst us. We should cherish the various ways of dressing. We should cherish the various cuisines that people have developed over the course of centuries in some cases. We should cherish the various various arrangements of our cities and the way our parks are structured, the way public space is organized, and all of the differences, that the way our houses of worship are manifested. And Muslims have always respected that until very recent history, that diversity. And that's why you see Muslims in South Asia dressing one way, Muslims in the Far East, in Malaysia or the Southern Philippines, dressing another way, and building their masjids, their mosques, with a distinctly Far Eastern flavor. I'll give you an example of this. The St. Basil's Basilica in the Kremlin, in the heart of Moscow, is very Russian. The big onion domes, how many of you are familiar with that? The very colorful domes. You've seen pictures of it. That building is a Polish Tatar mosque. When Ivan the Terrible went into Poland, he destroyed all of the Tatar Polish, their indigenous Polish Muslims. He destroyed all of their mosques, except one. It was so beautiful that he ordered it to be dismantled brick by brick. He brought it to Moscow and had it reconstructed. That's what that building is. The point is, it's very, very Polish, very Russian. It's very Eastern European, because the Muslims respected those cultural differences and didn't try to annihilate them. They sought to blend them and merge them with Islamic themes and motifs and principles. And that brought about tremendous diversity. You see African Muslims in their mosque. The largest adobe structure on earth is the great mosque at Jinni in Mali, built from mud. I was there earlier this spring. Mud, naturally air-conditioned, perfect for the climate. That's the type of diversity that is exemplified, لِتَعَارَفُوا, that you know one another and recognize your differences and don't despise one another. Now, saying that, to move on to class equality, Islam is not a leveling idea. So it's not an idea that advocates the kind of things that Marxist ideology advocates, creating a classless society with no class differentiation between us, because that is an unnatural idea. You don't find perfect equality in nature. If there's no positive charge and a negative charge, you can't generate electricity. If there's no male and female and the union between the two, you can't perpetuate humanity. If everyone's just one androgynous mass of totally equal human beings in every aspect, certainly there are areas where there are rights and that should be distributed equally in society. But the idea of total equality in all affairs, in all manners, isn't an Islamic idea, and certainly not economically. But what is, so one of the great, and it doesn't work. Every communistic society has collapsed. Generally because people didn't have an incentive to exert themselves. Why should I exert myself if there's any surplus? My family doesn't benefit from it. It's going to be taken from me and given to those people over there who don't want to work because they know they're going to get theirs anyway. And not that that's a gross simplification, but that's one of the reasons communism generally has not worked. And there are good features of communist societies, which shouldn't be denied, but there are also some very bad features, and that's one of them. So, one of the maqasid of Islam, one of the great objectives is the preservation of private property, to give people an incentive to work. But there are also teachings that guarantee those who are structurally denied access to work. They want to work. And so in this country, and in this state specifically, in Michigan, which was a harbinger of things to come economically in this country, there are a lot of people who want to work. There are a lot of highly skilled people, but their factories are being closed. And structurally, they're being denied the right to work. Structurally, meaning their jobs have been sent to another country. The structure of our globalized economy has marginalized them and deprived them of avenues where they can engage in the professions they've been highly trained and they're highly skilled and qualified to perform. This is what I'm talking about. People in those situations, there should be a safety net in society. People who want to work but are unable to work. People who might, because of some physical misfortune that's afflicted them, are unable to work. There should be a safety net. So just as private property is preserved, so one of the great overarching objectives of Islamic law is the preservation of religion itself, hifz al-deen, the preservation of life, hifz al-hayat, the preservation of the intellect, and that's why intoxicants are forbidden, hifz al-aql, the preservation of the family, hifz al-nasl, and the preservation of private property, hifz al-mal. So, and there are substantiations of these principles from Quran and tradition of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and all of God's messengers. But there are also teachings وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. And in their wealth, there is a well-defined right for those who are forced into circumstances where they have to ask for assistance, and for those who are deprived the right to work or for some other reason. وَالْمَحْرُومِ. So there is a balance. There is not perfect equality. There is not a classless society that's being advocated. But compassion and empathy is being urged, and if a person who has excess means doesn't pay the equivalent of the tithes that Christians pay, then the state has the right to take that percentage of their wealth, because once it's due to be paid, it is no longer their wealth, it's the property of the poor people. And the state has the right to take it and give it to the poor people, to distribute it amongst the poor people. So Islam advocates a system that blends features of capitalism and features of socialism in a unique system that recognizes class differentiations, recognizes a right to private property, recognizes a right to the fruit of one's labor and toil, but also recognizes the right of the poor, oppressed, and downtrodden people in a society. And this is also mentioned in the zakat, the obligatory poor tax that every Muslim of means and wealth has to pay. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين.